Welcome to Backstage with the Simple Church podcast. My name is Evan Semenko, joined by co-host Josh Mitchell.
Yo, yo.
We're glad you're here, Josh, promptly.
On time.
That's right.
Yeah. They learn you quick around here. He said, look, if you want to keep that reverend title, you better get your rear end here on time.
You were on time for staff meeting today. You
I
were
was
on
early
time
for staff
yeah,
meeting.
early
He was
for
motivated.
Early for podcast. Boy, 1 week. That's funny how things change.
That's
Can't lose
right.
that reverend title, man. I worked hard for that.
And lead pastor Justin Haigler in the glasses today. We're 3 for 3 on glasses.
Well, because I did research. There's very
no offense, not something you say very often.
No, because usually I come in. Yeah, it's not offensive at all. It's just reality. Like when you come in, you've gone through preparing the sermon, and then you come on the podcast and you're going to talk about it and unpack and whatever's going to go on. Well, something hit me yesterday because I thought I don't know the answer to that, and it's not a biblical question. It would be more of a practical, logistical question.
Mm.
So, like the heat of the battle yesterday was,
got
it's
some
not
folks
about
fired up.
knowledge, because it's not about what you know, it's what you show.
That's
It's
right.
like, am I applying what I know and blah, blah, blah. And then I think it was Urban Menace that we agreed on that we had heard on his pod with his son that was talking about all of these great seminaries in these towns, and there's no real dramatic improvement at all.
They said they went and researched in the cities where seminaries, Bible colleges, where the most devout Christians gather, there's no impact on the community above or more or less than any other place.
Right, yeah. So there's not a positive impact.
Right.
So my first thought was, there's a lot of thoughts that I
That's
have
right.
because I thought I better go and research this a little bit.
And let's jump into it. But first, let's do some housekeeping. Thanks for listening. If you're listening on the audio, podcast, Apple, or Spotify, we are live every Monday, 3:30 on the dot. Here on Facebook. We're excited you're tuning in. If you're watching on Facebook, you can check the audio podcast later. It goes up on Tuesdays. We got folks already chiming in here in the Facebook group, commenting, so you can follow us on Facebook, thesimplechurch.tv. Stephen Hines said, Hines checking in.
Come on.
He's ready.
Yeah,
Paul
what's up,
Reeser.
Steve?
Happy Monday.
What's up,
David
Paul?
Kruger, regular. And Kathy Carter. Hi to everyone. So if you want to watch live, if you want to tune in, you can add your comments. You can add your research. Now that we're a research podcast, and you can add some.
Yeah, well, listen, man, I'm not saying I do a lot of research.
I like it.
But
and you can
I
ask
like,
questions is the biggest thing.
Yeah, like you kind of this is the thing. So you put it in the message and you refer to that and you talk about it. Well, this is one example. So
Because just for the last couple months, we've kind of switched and been recapping the messages. You get to come in and kind of debrief and go over because you spend hours preparing, getting ready.
Yeah.
Some stuff doesn't make it, and then there's stuff that comes up live on Sundays or somebody asks or makes a comment afterwards. So that's the place we can do that, and we appreciate it. If you haven't listened to the message, go do that. You can do that on the Simple Church app or on our YouTube channel. Catch up. Check it out. Is another good one.
I don't
Lovers.
even know which one you put up yesterday because I forgot to text you.
You didn't tell me, so I went with 11. It was my favorite. I sat in 11.
Yeah, 11 was
And
one
when you
I
get
sat in
crunk
on,
at-
too.
It was 42 minutes. It's rare when we go to post them.
Yes.
That's right.
Well, and that was
Some bonus
And,
content.
well, John was asking me, my brother was saying, because 9, 10, 11, there's 3 services. 9, okay, you write all this stuff out. We've talked about this a lot, but quick debrief. You write out a sermon. You have an estimated time of what you think it's going to take. Videos, pictures, stories.
Because some people just will say, Brian Reed, he writes every word out. Like he's a transcript.
I didn't know that.
You've never seen his notes?
No.
Because he's normally doing it and you're gone. It's just a style he grew up. It's what he likes. He did it for
So
years.
he reads every word of it?
He puts his whole transcript, and then we try to convert it to notes for him to make it the bullet
Wow.
points and stuff. But that's how he works it out in his
I'm glad
head.
I came to Backstage with Simple Church. I've
Now
never
you
heard
learned
that.
something. It's a different approach.
Yeah, I could never do that.
Yeah.
That is how I started out.
Yep.
I don't do it anymore, but that was how I used to do it.
And there's pros and cons
Yeah,
to it,
yeah.
right?
Well, you stay on.
Right.
I mean, but
Your transitions and different things.
right. So here's my problem, and I got a lot of problems. But here's my problem.
Here's one.
Yeah. When it comes to communication, I like to leave a little room for what the spirit / whatever, creativity, another thought. I would say it's the spirit, like the spirit can speak to you, but somebody may say sometimes it is the flesh, and I have to battle that. And sometimes I lose.
Almost cussing,
My
uh-huh.
wife would go like, "Yeah, don't put the spirit in all that." Sometimes that's probably the
Give
flesh.
him credit or blame.
Right, but that's why it's a statement and it's a thought, and then it can generate another thought or it can generate another. A good example would be I try to go out after each service and talk to people and stuff, and sometimes those interactions will remind me of another story that I didn't tell or another insight, And I go, man, that's awesome, God. Thanks for letting me run into them or talk to them, because I probably would have never included that,
Right.
or would have never thought about that. So that's why I say that is sometimes it's not a bad thing, but it's not necessarily a, quote, Spirit of God came on you and told you something. It's just like another idea, another thought. And then other times I do feel like, no,
it's a
like,
tricky line,
yeah, you're supposed to say this and you need to say that. So this is what happened. So we talked about yesterday, if you didn't go listen to it, the battle between growing up in church, and it was about how many times you were there, how much you studied, and that was equal to your depth in your walk. Mm-hmm. And probably the funniest line, but still reality, is when I talked about spoon feeding babies.
That was my kid. I was going to say, they did it all last night.
Well, but it is interesting because we were always quoted that growing up,
right.
Like, but the truth is people say it when they're leaving churches a lot. Is like, well, I'm just not being fed. And then when you look at it, it's like, well, when did you learn to eat? Because as you mature in a regular physiological way in your body, it's like, oh, eventually you learn to eat your food. You learn. Well, that's why you can't ignore that comparison in the illustration of Scripture if you don't go back and go, oh, so you still want me to feed you like a baby.
Yep.
And so I used the whole
Nora and Eliza did it to Willa last night. They both said, look, we're going to feed Willa.
Well, and it's part of our culture we grew up with. That's what we say to kids and parents. Right. That's why, come on, open up, and here's your green beans or whatever's going to go on. Well, so all that being said, that was kind of where we're coming from. And then the point was that love is action. So it's not that you know that. People say, well, I know that, but we don't necessarily live it. And as a result, the churches may know that, but we as churches, and this is the big C, all churches, don't necessarily live in our community. And if love is supposed to be the big thing, the most important thing, above all thing, not me, that's Jesus, that's Scripture, above all, above everything else, then why are the communities that we're in not experiencing that and not impacted and not changed? And through another podcast with Erwin McManus, which is called Mind Shift, I don't remember what episode, we just talked about that, and I was like, that's interesting. So then I went, and he used an example of seminaries in towns, that if it was about knowledge, everywhere that there's a seminary, there should be an increased Christ activity, and things should be improving. Dramatic. And then when they researched it, that wasn't true. So let's just go ahead and, where are the most seminaries in Louisiana?
Ooh.
What town would have the most seminaries?
New Orleans.
You want to guess first? I was going to say New Orleans.
And let's just say, is it just so much better than everywhere else? I mean, just reflect on that. There are 10 seminaries in Louisiana. Most of them are in New Orleans. Would you say that there is less poverty? Mm-mm. Okay. Would you say there is less hunger? Nope. So this is. So I went and I thought, okay, Erwin had said that. Well, let's make it personal. Let's bring it to us and then extrapolate that thought. Okay, so there's one. Okay, now this is where I went a little bit deep. How many churches are in Bossier City?
Just Bossier, not Shreveport.
Just Bossier. Well, I'm going to give you both Shreveport and Bossier, but let's start with Bossier. How many? Now, this is through a web research, and if you pull that up, you can't be cheating.
I'm not cheating. I'm seeing how many people live in Bossier right now. What's the population?
Okay, so if you pull
62,000.
If you pull that up, how many churches are here? Now, this is an estimate because they do close and start, and there's some there. Yeah. But this is
I already saw
research.
Your phone, so I can't.
Oh,
yeah, you did? Yeah.
I'm going to say...
Well, the font's huge, so you wouldn't be able to see it.
I wasn't going to read you out on that part. I was
you ought to be able to see it. When you have... I'm blind in one eye, so you know how that is.
It's got to be over 100, 125.
Great guess. 110 churches.
All right.
Bossier. Okay.
For 60,000 people.
How many in Shreveport, Bossier combined?
So you already got 110 in Bossier. You're going to have another 200 Shreveports, 300 total.
Right on.
There we go. Okay.
But then here's the other part.
You were scared to play, Josh.
He saw it.
I know. That's why.
So then here's the other thing. Between Shreveport and Bossier, there's 300 legitimate, quote, churches.
Yeah.
There's over 500 religious organizations.
Dang. So another 200 non-Christian.
Yeah, well, no.
Or parachurch.
Parachurch.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's 500 organizations in Shreveport, Bossier. 10 seminaries in Louisiana, but New Orleans area. Now, here's the part that's going to blow you away. How many churches are in Louisiana?
That one I didn't see. So I can
All right,
guess.
go ahead.
Yeah, you can guess. So the reason I'm gonna pull all of this back to this point. That's a lot already. So there's 500 religious organizations, 300 plus churches just in Shreveport Bossier. Now you're going to go through the whole state. Okay, so
I'm ready, Josh.
3,200.
Okay,
no, under that. I'm going to say 2,100.
And both of you are way off.
Under?
Way off. Almost 5,000 churches, and in some estimations, depending on how you define the word church, which is interesting, 7,400.
Whoa.
Okay, so just reflect on that. So now, just kind of get this in your mind. How many kids are in foster care in Louisiana?
Too many.
Let's see.
Because I played the video from Foster Kid yesterday,
and
this was a worldly guy that was basically coming in and giving $1,000 to a kid he didn't know, giving him this great experience. And I'm sitting here thinking we were joking because I went crazy and said, there's nothing good on TikTok. But obviously there are other things.
Chinese TikTok.
Yeah, well, that's because everybody. Well, I think we bought it now.
It's American
that's
now.
my bad.
That's right. It's all right. It was for a long time.
China. Okay, so
some people still don't know that, so they
foster
probably thought you were right.
Yeah, all right.
I'm going to say.
How many kids in foster care?
All right, I took
10,000.
2 out of foster care, so let's see.
2 less. Thank you, Josh.
Well, there's still, now, did you adopt them?
Yep.
Yeah.
Both are adopted.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So you
went through the process. I'm going to say 10,000.
Okay.
I say 15,000.
Ooh, boy, y'all guys are way over.
Okay.
There's only 4,000 kids in foster care in Louisiana.
That's encouraging.
Okay, now 4,000 is a
Still
lot.
a lot, but yeah.
But here was my thought. Okay.
Surprising.
If there is on the low side,
Conservatively,
over 4,000, nearly 5,000 churches, if every church took one foster child, there would be no foster kids in the state of Louisiana.
be wiped out.
So you've already taken 2 for us. Thank you, man. That's what
You're
I'm
welcome.
talking about.
We're
You
good.
stepped up for it.
And we do have other foster families
There's a lot
in the
of
church.
foster
Yeah, they've done
families
great.
here. But
Few of
just
the people that work for them, too.
Yeah.
right. And this is what I'm saying, though.
Put your money where your mouth is.
Like, think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so all kids that it's not their fault. They didn't do anything. These are just kids born into a difficult situation. And there are nearly 5,000 churches in our state, 4,000 kids without a home, and we're going to not do anything? As a whole, there are individuals and there are small groups of people, but what a difference it would make. So, just in Caddo and Bossier Parish, there's 400 kids in foster care currently still.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, so how many churches were here? Do you remember?
500, right?
300.
300 and something. We're almost
500
at, if everybody took one,
Mm-hmm.
Solves the problem.
solves the problem. So, how many prisoners in Louisiana?
We met a couple hundred.
1,200 at David Wade.
David Wade, right?
I'll go ahead and, you want to guess? Go ahead, guess.
10,000.
8,000.
28,000 prisoners in Louisiana. So then think about, like, for us, we haven't been great at this. So if we're picking on ourselves a little bit, we just started getting involved. But how many churches are actively involved in loving on prisoners? And you'd go, well, why would they do that? Because somewhere in Matthew 25, Jesus stepped out of the box and said, man, what are y'all doing? But yet it's once again, no, but we're in study. We're going to go back to what we need to learn and what we need to do, which I get. And everybody thinks I'm like against Bible study. I'm not against Bible study, but if you are in Bible study and it does not lead to any change in a community or in your life, then what are we doing?
Studying without action.
So it just goes back to, and that's why I put all those scriptures up there, which is hard because it's not like I'm saying I've achieved it. I'm saying I am still struggling just like you. I mean, I'm still in life group. We're studying. We did spiritual warfare this past Wednesday night. It's not like I'm not studying or, like this is not for preaching. This was for our life group.
Right.
And still studying scripture to preach or whatever. But I'm just going, that tension is real. So then if you keep extrapolating, okay, 1,500 homeless in Caddo Bossier. There are 1,500 people living on the street in Caddo Bossier right now. There's 500 religious organizations and 300 churches, and how are we being a part of that? Now, for us, we put a little budget over there. We have programs. We do things. But are all of us committed to that? What if we all united and came up with a plan and lived that out? Could we change our community? Could we change where we live? There's an estimated 8,500 homeless in Louisiana. Once again, almost one per church.
Yep.
Okay. Now, speaking of Easter, $1.9 million. $1.9 billion of medical debt in Louisiana. 20% of our residents have medical debt that they cannot afford to pay. So here we are as a church. Why are we going to raise money on Easter? Why are we going to try to help and all this kind of stuff? It just gives you like this
perspective.
And I'm giving, like, I went and researched this because I'm thinking, when everybody goes, yeah, but you're just, no, but how much? I mean, this is horrible, but if you could add up what I spent on Bible study literature in my life versus what I spent on helping people, which one's higher? I mean, when Lifeway was in town, I used to go over there when I was a First Bossier every week. I'd buy this or get a new book or get this or get a CD. How many CDs? If I could just put a portion of the money that I put into, and I was a music guy, I spent a lot of money. So making it personal, I was like, ugh. Okay. 1 in 5 kids in Caddo Bossier do not know where their next meal is coming from. So when you see 5, there's one of those kids that go, I don't know how I'm eating tonight. I don't know how I'm eating for lunch. And that's over 6,000 kids every day in our community going, I don't know how I'm going to eat.
Kids that your kids are going to school with.
Yes. Now, granted, what you'd say, well, we're doing these backpack, but we act like we've done something because we did some backpack programs. It's important and it's powerful. But this is why that message, it messes with me. So I don't like when everybody's like comfortable, including me. And it's not every sermon, but boy, when it comes up, it's like, this is a big one. Because if you love, it's got to be fulfilled in the way that we treat people and the things that we're doing. And then when I look at churches as a whole, all of us, the big C, how many buildings have we built, including us? How much money do we spend on lights versus feeding people? How much did you spend on a building remodel versus building up another part of it? And you got to have some of it, maybe not all of it, but you got to.
But it's that back and forth
tension.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the kind of sobering part. 21.5% of kids in Louisiana don't know where their next meal is coming from, and you are the highest in the nation. You're number 1 in food insecurity for children. You're the number 1 problem in America is Louisiana. Now, just reflect on that. With
state known for its
with
cooking
nearly
and food.
7,000 churches in the state. Now, this is why
convicting.
That's why I say it. It's like, okay, in Caddo and Bossier, nearly 70,000 people rely on SNAP benefits just to feed their family. Now, I don't know if you realize this. What's the population of Bossier City right now?
60,000.
More than every resident in Bossier City do not have enough money to feed their family.
On SNAP.
Now, I mean, that's reality. So then there's 300 churches, 5,000 in Louisiana. And this is what I couldn't look up, but I wanted to. Over 16,000 people, food insecure, both are higher than normal and higher than the national average. And that was like in our area. So when you put them together, so you're still leading the nation in food insecurity. But what I could not look up and I could not find was church budgets. And this is where like, you can't look out without looking in, we look at a percentage of our budget, at least 10%, if not more, goes to helping people. So in other words, of everything that comes in, not including all the things that we do, but I remember when we first started, that's where we were trying to figure out how do you manage it, because the largest expense for a church is staff. Your second is your buildings, and part of your staff is just insurance. You already know right now what happened with our insurance this year.
Went up.
So that takes real giving. That's not going in your pocket.
Right, and we're thankful that we have it.
It's just protecting people, but that cost is astronomical. So then when you're trying to figure out how to balance all that, that's the problem. And then go back to, and why I said this, is people would make fun of TikTok and say, that guy just did whatever it is, but yet there are people, and why you're in a bind is many people don't give $1 to the church.
Mm-hmm.
So like everybody thinks, oh, there's a lot of people giving to Simple Church. You'd be surprised.
Be very surprised.
Because there's, I think they said, I don't remember the exact number, but less than 1,000 regularly give, period. Anything, even $1. I wanted to say it was like 700, but I could be off on that number.
That sounds about right.
Mm-hmm.
But just what I mean is so you go, well, why don't y'all do more? Well, it's like you don't have more, but we do try to do a lot with what we have. But this is why I was telling those kids, when all these teenagers and kids that were in church Sunday, and I was high-fiving them and bumping them, but I said, it's your problem to change. We have to change it. We have to be different. We have to work at this. We have to recognize it. Because in the future, I don't believe light and sound and music production is what's going to reach the next generation. It will be your ability to solve problems.
Mm-hmm.
And it will be your ability to follow what he told us to do. And how do we do that better? So whether that's trips, like we've been very committed to Honduras and Africa. And,
They're a troop right now.
Yeah,
There's a group there.
Mexico and all those things. And then where Angie and I, we were talking about it, that we're very thankful and proud. My brother even talked about it a little bit this morning. And not in the negative sense of pride, but like thankful that, man, we've done a lot. But in the grand scheme of what is to be done,
Sure,
not really.
Mm-hmm.
So people say, why are you so passionate about it? Well, because I grew up in small Baptist churches where we didn't give anything to anybody. We built for ourselves. We focused on ourselves. And that was little. But I mean, from the 70s. I was in the 70s in West Shreveport, so it's not. Westside's not even there, I don't think, one of the churches I grew up in, but it was never brought up. We were never even concerned with that. We never thought about that. We didn't even have in that little church any missionaries that came in. They might have done Lottie Moon offering, which was back in the day, but I don't remember that. So I only say we did one little class with my mom. I remember we were little called Mission Friends, and they thought, boy, we did something because we told you about what missions was. We didn't go do it. We just learned about it. We just got more knowledge about it.
That was the same experience I had growing up. You hear about missionaries and you think about the guys on the bikes and coming up
tip
to
of the
door.
spear.
Yeah, and all that stuff. And, that was all you heard about a mission or a mission trip or anything like that. And you always thought, that was something that people, would dedicate their lives to, and they'd sell their home and then just go and do this for a year. And, I mean, the mission can be locally. I mean, you just talked about all of that, but, I mean, it could be right down the street from you. It doesn't necessarily have to be this big overseas trip or, spending a year away from your home or anything like that. I mean, there is a lot of work to be done in a lot of different places.
Louisiana Baptist said the average Louisiana Baptist church is $376,000 their budget for a year. So just using that as an example, if there's 5,000 churches, they all had about that on average. It's $1.8 billion just in Louisiana.
Yeah.
And then Kathy Carter, watching the comments, said she's looked this up before. Texas has 30,000 churches and 30,000 kids in foster care.
Yeah, and it's interesting how that number kind of lines up every time. I don't know what God's telling us in that. That's just interesting.
Not a coincidence, yeah.
No, and a child or someone in poverty, like when a kid is hungry, when a kid has no home, I'm going to play a video, I think, again this week just to drive the nail in deeper.
Fired up about it.
No, I'm convicted by it. You know, like I
love
really
it.
am. It's
I
like
love it.
I think, and then here's where we don't really want to talk about this, but they didn't know this is coming, y'all. This is where it gets real. We're really backstage.
Oh,
No,
Go
it's
ahead,
like I think we have to personally evaluate ourselves. I think you have to really look in the mirror and go, okay, what does that mean for me and my family? And what does that mean for me and my personal walk? So you can't even drag your wife into it first. Just start with you. And then I go back and go, what amount of time is dedicated? What amount of money is dedicated to the problems that we know we could have an impact on? So then you have to look at that. So like I was telling you before, like chaplain stuff, everybody, we're talking about it. It's like that's one way that I'm interacting with children that I never would. And then there's also like other bad situations that you kind of force yourself in, and that's good, but it's not necessarily what I'm talking about. That's a good step. But then Angie asked me the $1 million question last night. She was just like, "Hey, I watched," because she worked at Do Good the whole time because 3 people called in sick and nobody would volunteer. I mean, they just couldn't be there or whatever. By the way, you can volunteer at Do Good Store as well.
we'll put a link in the show.
Yeah,
notes.
like and Easter volunteers. We have a lot of volunteers that we could use, but I'm saying it's important to remember there are people, and then they can't do something else if they do it. I mean, like she couldn't go to church this week. She was like, I couldn't leave it. I mean, everybody's coming in, whatever. But she was just like, don't tempt me to adopt somebody. Don't tempt me to foster. And the other reason I brought up is Tammy Dubose, which, married name now, Mike Jones. They go to Simple Church, and she was asking me not this Sunday, but last Sunday about they fostered, and she was just like, hey, what about this? And I've thought about when we did a sermon on it. We did CASA Volunteers, and we filled all the voids that they had in one Sunday. That's real talk.
It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So then you go back and just look at whatever it is, like consistently coming up with a plan and then rallying and unifying. It's kind of like we're doing the boardwalk. I'm trying to get people to do things on the boardwalk because we know it helps our city. And then on the same side, every Sunday, I'm trying to get people to do things for the kingdom that are good for the kingdom. And those things line up sometimes. And because it's jobs, it's meeting families' needs. Like there's people that have a job that then are able to feed their family and they're not on SNAP, or it's whatever's going to go on. And so you go, it's not one or the other. It's all of those things. And as Christians, shouldn't we be trying to solve those problems and then be dedicating some time and energy and resources individually and then corporately as a body, instead of just go, well, the church needs to go do this and then you don't do it. That's not really what he's looking for. It's like, no, what if we all did that to whatever degree? So that's, my research for the day, but that was my thought. So I don't know if there's any comments or anybody wants to.
It's heavy. No, it's good. I mean, people just watching saying thanks for doing this. Thanks for speaking out. Kimberly in Arkansas, and then Terry guessed New Orleans correctly, so we'll give him credit on that. Good job, Terry. Played along. But David Kruger said, do you think it's because people in seminary look at knowledge from man's point of view and not God's? And
I think it's a good
kind of caught up in the pursuit of knowledge and not necessarily what it leads you to.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, and that's where I think some people are pushing back this morning going, well, don't you think it's balance? I mean, if you don't know, if you don't study it, then you can't do it. And I'm like, yeah, I think that's a fair statement. But I think the problem is studying and singing, whether that's leading worship, buying a CD, getting the latest Bible study, getting together, it is way easier than actually going to solve a problem out of your comfort zone. So whether that's Mexico, how many people have y'all talked to in your experience? I can tell you in mine, when I go, hey, we're going to Mexico, they're like, I could just never do that.
The most dangerous city in the world.
I would never do that. I'm like, man, really? You would never do that? No, I could never do that. Now, I may give you a little bit of money or something, but I could never go do this or that. Well, like Africa.
Multiple.
Like you go all the way, like how could I do whatever, and it's expensive, and then you go, yeah, but look at your life and what you spend on your vacations, your fun stuff, which I'm for, but what percentage is given to solving a problem or helping somebody beyond yourself? And here's why. I think I even may have caught a clip of this recently. When I do funerals, okay, We lost a firefighter yesterday, not a Bossier guy, but a Caddo, 54 years old, died of a heart attack. When you go to do his funeral, if you were to attend, if you were to listen, if you were to walk into the room, I guarantee you 100%, because I've done a lot of them, you will never, ever, ever focus on what he was getting. You will 100% talk about what he gave to his family, to his wife, to his kids, to his community, to his God, and how you value, when you go through that, what you value and you put out there. So, for example, I know Kathy was listening. We buried her sweet husband not too long ago. And what did we go back to? What he gave to his country, what he gave to his wife, what he gave to his kids, what he gave to the church. So why it matters, how ironic that we're not focused on that. You're wanting more for you. Houses, cars, clothes, all the stuff that we fight for. And you raise your kids in the same culture. And then when we get to the end, every one of us know that's not what it was about. But yet when you're taking an evaluation of what's going on, including the church. So if we take it off of an individual, well, when are we getting that for the kids? When are we going to get this for the band? When are we going to get this for us? And that is when we need to build and then what we'll try to do, because we're all guilty of, we're human, we try to spin it that it's going to help God. I mean, that's why I don't want it for us. Even everybody goes, man, you didn't the church do Pickler? No, that's a business. And I'm thankful that we were a part of helping them get here. But that's different running a business than running the kingdom as far as trying to help fulfill. And it's no, because
we're for the community.
Right.
We want businesses to come.
You got to have businesses. Right. So I'm 100%. And I'm actually more for that than us trying to do any of that.
So make our own pickleball court.
Yeah, pickleball court. That's what I mean. It's but here's my thing. So you're a middle school guy. And this is why it burdens me. If the church doesn't address it and change it and really work on it and proactively come up with a plan to do that, it will continue to go down that road. So when you read that passage in there where it was talking about they're rude, they're selfish, the writer was speaking to the church. So how many times have we been rude or selfish? And then we celebrate it. That's why I get frustrated with it. It's I'm in the culture. I'm just like you. I'll hear somebody say, there could be a leader that's totally rude, totally selfish. And we'll go, that's what we need more of, buddy. Thank God somebody's in there. I'm going, that is not lining up with who we say we are. That is not what Christ is calling us to. And we're human because that's the struggle. So
2 Timothy 3:1-2. I got the verse. You can be certain that in the last days there will be some very hard times. They will be proud, stuck up, rude, ungrateful, heartless, and hateful.
And then you just think about it. That's why I go back and go, that's the church. And he was have nothing to do with these people, because that's what's going to start coming into the church. That's what's going to start infiltrating. And then if you look at it, that's thousands of years old. And last days then, last days now, I'm not I don't know the when and how and all that, but I can just tell you this, it's pretty spot on for where we are.
Because it goes on and say their words will be cruel. They'll have no self-control or pity. They'll be sneaky, reckless, and puffed up with pride.
Yeah. And then if you
sounds like some people we know.
Right. And then it sounds like if we're not careful, depending on the day, it's us. Mm-hmm. So if you look in there and you go, hey, man, well, that's not me. I'm well, no, it could be. And that's why then when your kids are coming up, this is why teaching them to serve, giving them opportunities to serve. So in middle school, if I'm being specific, I don't care if they sit in there or not. What are you doing with them, man? Because if you don't lead them to do it, it don't mean anything. If you go, well, they came today, we had a good little meeting, great. But what's the plan to put them kids in a situation where you go, hey, it ain't about you, man. This is, and if you could spin it in their mind early on, including your own children. So like my kids, as we grow grandkids, and we model that. But if you're leading the opposite life, your kids go, you're a hypocrite.
You never help anybody.
You don't help anybody. You don't even help mom. And you're telling me what I got to do? Or that's why to me people go like, man, you're always out there, whatever. And I'm like, dude, one, I do not want to be a hypocrite. But two, when I do, it really does benefit me more than the other. So like if I go back, I've never regretted a mission trip, ever. In any one that I've ever been on, ever in my life. There have been moments you go, that was tougher or whatever, but we always come back and go like, wow. Even as difficult as a chaplain call is, middle of the night, what's going to go on, and you go do that. They're tough. It's messy. It's ugly. It's dark. But there's something in me when you get done with that, you go, man, thank you, God, that I was able to do that. And then what if that's not just with family, because that was part of the deal, is like we can do it with our family, and you should absolutely be dying for your family and serving your family. And like I think of our other staff members right now doing that, trying to figure all that out, and it has to start there because it's genuine.
Yeah.
But then it goes to irrational love. I don't know I'm not getting anything back. Not from them, not from what's going on. And that's where he was like, that's how the world changed. Like, think about that. Like, realistically, the only reason we're sitting here doing a silly podcast for people to listen to with a Christian mantra is because there was a group of men that once they saw Jesus and they saw what he did and how he did it, they looked at each other and said, game on.
Took down the Roman Empire.
Game on.
Action.
And they didn't sit around and study. I mean, that's my point. Is like, how ironic.
Yeah.
And they all went to the upper room and went into a Bible study about how
Stayed in.
And they all sang songs and you see glimpses, but what you see is them on the move. What you see is them
feeding widows.
Yeah, what you see is action. You
Adopting
see them
kids that
you
were
see
being
them
left
pulling
out.
together, going, "Hey man, we see a need over here. How much money you got, Josh?
What can you sell?"
And I think some of that problem for, at least I know for myself, and I think other people can relate, is you get into that analysis paralysis kind of mode where you're like, okay, well, we got to make sure everything's lined up perfectly before I make a move. And it's like, if I was always living like that, I try not to, but if I always was, I would not be middle school pastor right now, because I would have been like, I don't know, I just came out of one job, just started another one, I don't know if that's going to line up, or even with volunteering or, whatever. Like, sometimes you just got to step off and trust God and take that leap of faith, because it's going to radically change your life. It's going to radically wreck your life in a good way.
Well, let's bring that up. I'm glad you brought it up.
Oh.
So walk down your foster care journey.
Oh, boy.
I mean,
I'm
just
glad you brought
briefly.
that up, because I was talking about
But I mean,
that earlier.
So, because you did it, you and Court did it.
Slightly shortened version, because this story could take a while. So Courtney, I'm living in California, and Courtney is here. She adopted Layla in October 16th of 2016.
And y'all weren't dating. You weren't even in the picture.
We weren't even dating.
She
No.
did it
as a single
woman.
She was ready to be a mom, and she's like, I'm going to go pick me up a kid. So she did all the classes, did all the things, and got all in the way. And so she, if I remember correctly, she's going to kill me if I get this wrong. She had one child before Layla, and then
as a foster.
had Layla.
Yeah.
Layla came to our house, I think it was 6 months from the time she moved into our house to the time she was adopted. It was very quick, and that is a very not normal situation. We'll get to Dom in a second. So, adopts Layla. Eventually, we get together, and she's already fully adopted, like I said, and Courtney and I get together, and she's like, all right, if we're going to, engage and get married and do all this stuff, like, you got to be a foster parent, like, because my home's still certified and all that stuff. I'm like, All right, sure, let's do it.
What a man will do.
Courtney leading the way.
Not knowing what I was getting involved in, but I did. I took the leap of faith. I was like, fine, let's do it. So we get married. Well, I get all my foster stuff. No, we get married, and then I get all my foster stuff done. And then
How long did that take for you?
You do the classes, and then they have to do a background check and stuff of sorts. So 3-4 months maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
It wasn't very long, and then you have to do like an in-person meeting and interviews and all that. So we got engaged December 2019. Married in March of 2020. Anniversary coming up. Get married March 2020, and then Dom comes to live with us November of 2020. Now, his adoption and foster situation was a lot different. He lived with us for 2 years before we were able to adopt him. Court cases back and forth. I know that drive to Natchitoches like the back of my hand because he was down in foster care in Natchitoches, which is a whole thing, and ended up here. And it was a whole sticky situation that if he wants to tell that one day, he can. But and even in between that, between Layla and Dom, we've had other kids come to stay with us. My Courtney's older sister and her husband, they're certified foster parents. They had kids come in and out of their house. They had 5 come in for their very first time that they got a placement. 5 kids all at once, all brothers and sisters, and that was kind of wild. But it will change your perspective on the world in general, but especially when you look into a kid's eyes who comes to your house, gets placed in your home, and looks at you and just says, I want a snack. Like, what's up? And it's just like I don't know if it's innocence or what the word is I'm looking for, but just they come to you and there's just like all of that stuff that happened in their past a lot of times, especially the younger ones. I can't speak for, we haven't had any kids that are like older than 9 come and stay with us, but Dom didn't remember any of the stuff that led him to that point. He just knew, like, I'm living here now. Where are the fruit snacks? Where's the remote to the TV? You know?
Yeah.
And, it has really changed my perspective on every kid that I see now. The kids that come in and out of the middle school area, the high school area every week, and when I'm walking around the children's building, it's just, you never know what the story is behind the kid that you're looking at or the person that you're looking at. And I think that was the biggest perspective change for me. Is I was definitely moving through life thinking, everybody's got their stuff going on, but nobody's life is, super terrible. You see the things on TV, you see the stories on the news, the Steve Hartman stuff and all of that, but when it's really right staring you in front of the face, that is where the change comes in. That is where it hits home. And I don't regret it at all. I think it's one of the best things that Courtney ever made me do.
Amen. And then you got in there and did it.
But I got bad news. Mm-hmm. Courtney's watching live.
Yeah, thank you, Courtney. Uh-oh. Straighten him out.
Got one fact check.
What I mess up on?
Layla was her first one. There was not one before.
Oh, I thought Megan.
There you go. But Courtney, thanks for watching.
Yeah, well, the reason I'm bringing it up, and Courtney should come on here sometime.
Absolutely.
Y'all can talk about all that. But like Courtney, a single white female, and she takes on.
In her 20s, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And does it. And in that, what I would say is, and I've always admired her way before she married you. I already knew that.
I did too.
Yeah. But I go, that's next level Jesus stuff.
And it inspired Josh. It inspired her family. We're talking about her now, and it's still continuing to ripple out and affect people.
Right. And I go back to, like, when Dom comes in, and now we love on him, and that y'all changed everything for him and for Layla. I mean, it's a total sacrifice. And she's a great mom. You're a great dad. Like we were talking about this morning. Remember Court in there straightening them out in the hallway. Is what I'm talking about. What's her name?
Corquisha had to make an
Corquisha. That's her. What do you call her? Alter ego. Yeah. But what I'm saying is because it's out of love. She wants the best for them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what, as a Christian and as a church, don't we want the best for them?
Should be known for.
Yeah.
So that's why I like I said, I'm just a guy who gets on the stage and speaks once a week, trying to live it out. And yes, sometimes more passionate than others. But the goal is that all of us walk out of here and live it out. So it's not because the stage makes me more important. A Courtney would have more celebrity in Jesus' eyes than a guy who stands on the stage and talks. And unfortunately, our culture and the way churches become, that's not really where we are. So when I say that is, as we use technology and as we use the methods that God's blessed us with, we are accountable to, and I'm committed to, even when people think I'm crazy. And that's where even people still they just go, man, I'm not sure about you. I'm sure about what he said, and I'm sure about how he lived, and I'm not that way. I want to be, and I'm striving to be. Fall short of it most days, but the one gift that I have, didn't know that was going to be my gift, but is to get up and communicate and try to make that clear. But telling those stories and pushing for the change in the church and getting those kids to not just, this is what we talked about, it's not just serve the church. That's once again insider focus. It's like, well, I picked up trash at the church today. It's like, that's important. But what about the kid that you went to class with this week that doesn't have anything to eat, and you overhear that? And you come back to mom and dad and go, hey, Mom, give me an extra Pop-Tart. And then they begin to go, it's not just what happens inside the walls of the church, because we got extra snacks, but it's that the church is mobilized into a community, and it radically changes the community.
Yep.
So for me, it is in leadership and business. I'm trying to do that now. I didn't know that I'd be doing that. I had no idea that I would be working with millionaires and bosses of big companies and trying to recruit. But in the end, God's opened my eyes and going, when you came here and it's empty and there is no vision and we're trying to figure it out, but then the city and the business owners are like, this is what we want to do, and you've been put in that position, you'd better do it. You better do it the best of your ability. Same with chaplain. Didn't know I'd ever be a chaplain in a fire department. Didn't know I was going to be a pastor, as we said a few weeks ago. So you don't know what tomorrow holds. Don't know if it's going to be, you didn't know you were going to be a foster parent. You didn't know you were going to be a middle school minister. You didn't. It's like, then you go, but when you look at your kids, it's not they're the future of the church. They are now. Like, there is things that they can do, and I try to catch them and go do it. Because they lead it. Yeah.
I got one story that'll tie into the kids doing it now. So I got to brag on Dom, and this I would love to take credit for, but this is not me. So he's been taking the sign language stuff on Sundays.
Yep.
Him and a few of the other kids learning that and learning all that stuff. And he's a very visual learner, so he picks stuff up.
And let's brag on her. Marion
quick.
Tripp
Yes.
said a couple kids were interested in learning sign language, and she offered to start teaching them once a week and spend an hour of her time to go and to teach them to help to communicate.
And if it wasn't for Marion, Wendy wouldn't be here.
Right.
Who just got
other
licensed.
people,
And it
and
started
now
with like 2 kids, and it's now like 6 or 7 or 8
it's
of them, something like that. Yeah.
But just on her side, on her energy and time, she could have slept in and been tired. And then the dozens of deaf that are here now because they do it and offer it for the service, plus the ones that watch online because they stream it so people can see it.
So go ahead to the kids. Go, Dom, he's...
Oh, yeah. So he's taking the class and doing that. And they were doing it about 2 or 3 weeks or so. And then there's a kid that comes around either the 10 o'clock class or the 11 o'clock class. My kids are here all day because I'm here all day. So Dom loves it. He'd sit through 5 hours of that stuff.
Right.
There's a kid, he is also deaf, and he was always iffy about coming to church because he didn't have anybody he could talk to.
Right.
Nobody could speak sign language to him up there other than any interpreter or whatever, but none of the kids could really talk. Well, Dom, of course, fearless, never met a stranger in his life. He walks right up to him and starts doing the sign language stuff and talking to him back and forth. Kid wants to come every week now.
So
because
awesome,
he's got a
man.
friend now.
Yeah, it's so awesome.
And that is the part where that ripple effect comes through because, you talk about being a foster parent and then I'll say Courtney, the impact Courtney had on Dom. And then, Dom being able to exhibit that and embody that, I'm just so proud of him. And Layla does stuff too, and I'm sure she'll be mad I didn't mention her on the pod today. But that is the moments that I'm proud to see, and you're talking about that next generation carrying it forward and starting now and not trying to learn this stuff, when they're 20, 25 years old, and it's, actions are already ingrained in them by then. It's hard to pick it up.
Yeah. That's why I love it. I'm very proud of him.
Absolutely.
Thankful.
Another cool story yesterday that is behind the scenes, backstage, nobody would know, but there was an elderly guy who's not doing well. Somebody came in and saw him kind of stumbling, and she went to go help, and then she kind of shared her story, and she had been praying and fasting about how God could use her, was not feeling good. She bought this blood sugar monitor, was worried about diabetes, and then this guy comes in that she just sees, her kids connect with him, and she goes to help, and now she wants to figure out how she can help get him to doctor's appointments, and just wept Sunday.
Yeah.
Crying about it, and it's like, okay, God, we're not that smart. We're not that
Yeah.
good to be able to provide it and be able to know these opportunities all the time. But when you are looking, when you're ready, when you're at a place that you can go and try to be where God wants you to be, these opportunities come up.
He'll
He's
lay it at your
always
feet.
looking to try to right. And again, we try to facilitate that. We try to create those, but spontaneously, Marion on her own, without anybody asking her, without demanding that she teach a class, this lady now is going to help an elderly guy who doesn't have anybody.
Yeah, that's
that's
cool.
going and doing it. And it's over and over again. We get to see and hear these, and it's so encouraging.
Yeah.
We get to share those. That's the kind of stuff we want to celebrate. That's what we want to be known for.
Yeah, if you think about it, like, what is the most attractive thing about someone as their ability to sacrifice,
Serve.
serve? So if you want the church to be attractive, Jesus showed us how to do it. And so that's the point, is like all of those are little ways of dying, whether that's death to self, death to my time, death to the thing I just bought, it's uncomfortable. I didn't know I was going to be here. But then in the end, you gave, you didn't get. And in the end, that's what we talk about at your funeral. And that's what Jesus says when you walk into his presence, you did a good job. Well done. It never goes the other way. And if that's the goal, to honor him in the way we live on this planet and to prepare to meet him one day, then those things matter way more than the other stuff we get caught up in. And your kids, our kids, the community needs to see it and know it. And we're going to mess up. We're not going to get it right all the time. But, if the heart is there, then, boy, it can have a huge difference. I mean, it can make a huge difference.
Amen.
Absolutely. We're coming up on an hour already. A couple
Golly.
comments, people dropping in. Thanks for watching on Facebook. Once again, if you're listening to the audio, you want to be a part of it, join us on Facebook, 3:30 every Monday. Charlotte Gomez said, my heart melted in Rwanda when a teenager brought the translator over to tell me and pray for me when I was leaving. And that just blew her away.
Yeah.
She's been on mission trips before with us for a long time. Alan Smith said there was a couple times I wanted to run around the room fired up about what you said. He said, especially when you talked about water, you said the knowledge is like water. The deeper you go, the colder it gets.
Boy, that's the truth, isn't it?
It really is. Because there's very intelligent people who know a lot more than all of us combined who don't care about people. Don't want to be around people.
And that's why it's not that knowledge is bad. You obviously want to study, but, boy, you got to protect you. You
It's
got
hard
to
to be
really
both.
be on guard. You got to go, why am I doing this?
And you talked
then-
about, go ahead.
No, I was just saying the warmth of people is, and I will continue this discussion even as we go into a new series because I can't let it go, with some new insights in scriptures and stories from the scripture that will prove this point further, that if you're a studier and you want to go deep, then let's go deep.
Challenge.
And I'm making a little joke about it, but really when you read it, you're like, yeah, I get it.
Hard
Yeah.
to argue with that.
Yeah, I get it. And that's the hard part, is we can get it. It's more than what you know. You need to show. You got to find a way to go do that today. You got to find a way. And then I thought, what if you started in every day, like we did the whole Christmas thing, and
Yeah.
some people, but what if you just had a personal goal of going, what can I do to die today for somebody, even in the smallest way? And if 2,000, 3,000, if 5,000 churches did it in Louisiana, do you think our state would be better?
That was the exact thought I had walking out of church yesterday, because that quote you had, it was the one that hit me the most, was you're only as deep as the last person you served. And I was thinking, who was the last person I served? And I was like, that's not good, brother.
No. And we're all there. So
Yep.
that's why I say it's not like, the guy in the lights gets the pass. I mean, we're all, it's just you're discussing it. We're working through that. And I don't know what that'll look like today or tomorrow. But are you sensitive? It is kind of funny. Yesterday when I was leaving church, this is so funny. It's a long day. We went and ate at Flying Heart, got some pizza. We're all cutting up. And Keith Lockhart was super generous to the tip because he was like, man, I'm going to really tip this waitress or whatever. And it was good. And then I went and talked to Ben, the owner. We were just catching up about things going on. It was a good visit, whatever. So I'm like, oh, man, okay, so I'm leaving. Well, right when I get on the overpass over here, there is a truck stuck in the middle of the – and it looks like stuff is everywhere. You ever come up on your – and so my truck does have lights or whatever, so I get behind her so nobody runs in and turn all the lights on. And I'm trying to get out, and it's people are flying. By the way, I know now why people die out there because it's like they're going. I mean, there's no reason to go 90 miles an hour on that overpass, but they're doing it, man. They're blowing by, and she's like, "Oh my God!" And I was like, "Did it all fall out?" She goes, "This isn't even my stuff. I just know somebody was going to wreck." So she just was trying to be a good Samaritan, and we were picking up all this trash, and putting it in. And I was like, "Do you want me to put it in your truck?" She's like, "No," like
I'm good.
But she stopped and we had that little interaction, and I thought even the smallest act, it would have been
easy to miss it.
And it was still inconvenient.
Yes.
There was nothing in me because it'd been a long day. I was like, just roll on, man.
I've
Then
done
I thought,
enough.
man, I guarantee you, that'll be my luck. I turn around this lady, and then we'll see on the news, lady got smoked on overpass, picking up trash. And I'll be
Local pastor drives by.
Yeah, I think they saw him go by. I was like, okay, Lord, I got it. But I just say it's not easy because we're all tired or in your own world or self-absorbed to whatever level. And then that Holy Spirit, His Holy Spirit speaks to you and be like, hey, man, this is your chance, whether it's buying a meal or a kind word or a smile. And that's why I like the Bryan Adams song, by the way.
Yeah.
The first one is like, I don't think it sounded like a Christian song if you really just pulled it back and go, man, that's a great worship song in the sense of what it was saying. But the point is, be ready to help someone smile. Be ready to help someone laugh. Be ready to be that encouragement or meet that need. And that's now the secular world can take that over, but that was your job. That is our job.
It's not what we're known for.
And it's not necessarily what Christians are known for. We're picketing places. We're political.
But we're against.
And we're against, and we boycott. I'm like,
that
man.
picture I sent y'all.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
People
Yeah,
outside
you were
that-
at the Kansas game, and it's the same thing. They're out there hollering at people and all these hate posters, and I'm going, that's what, if we're
Christians
not careful.
get lumped in.
If we're not careful, that's why you have to. And that's why I played that last video when I know we're out of time. That I loved about CBS. People talk about all of the media and it's so bad and all this kind of stuff. They left the prayer in.
Yeah.
They show this community rallying around this guy. They could have cut that out. They could have edited that.
Yeah.
And not that they're perfect and not that they're all Christian, but God uses it all. Like I said, man, if He can use TikTok and
They want to
the
celebrate.
news and this guy, He can use a donkey. He can use you.
I was sitting with Chris Ware. He was back at the audio board when that was playing the first service, and he's like, wouldn't it be great if that's more of what the news was?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the
not the
problem
stuff you
is
see.
like, but wouldn't it be great if we're the ones that there's
Making
so
the
many
news.
stories that are written they can't ignore it? That's where it goes back to. It's easy to look out there. It's harder to look here in the heart. It's hard. It's easy to go say what they need to be doing.
Yep.
But when I go like, yeah, but what do I need to be doing? And that's where I go, all right, God, help me.
So you finish listening to this podcast. Go do something for somebody. Let us know what you did.
Yeah,
Join us
else
back.
get out there and
We'd
do
love
something.
to hear from you this week as you go and serve and do these good things. We want to celebrate them. So drop them in comments. Let us know on Facebook, Instagram. Email us, justin@thesimplechurch.tv.
Yep.
We love hearing your stories, and we are excited to keep spurring you on to do good.
Wait till you hear the music this week. Playlist is going to be
New
on.
series.
Oh, this
And,
is a
man,
series for me right
it's
here.
And
time
this first
change,
week
too.
is definitely going to be, yes,
So
spring
it's worth
forward.
getting up.
Yeah, spring forward. But you wait, you're going to dig it. These
Oh.
first two songs they're coming out.
You know I'm a music guy.
I know
Bring
this
it
is,
on.
this
There you
is some
go.
good stuff.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Peace.